Hi teams, and welcome to the next session. I want to start with this great quote from Steve Jobs. Great things in business are never done by one person, they're done by a team of people. And that is really important because for every one person you see up collecting an award or something like that, there is a whole team of amazing people with them there. So the first part of this session is called Making Teams Succeed. We'll move on to the second part around the innovation process a little bit later. So the learning intention for this first part is to clearly provide frameworks and tips on how we can help you norm during the challenge and overcome any barriers as they arise. We're also working on all four main skill groups: communication, understanding, solving problems, and working smart. So first thing we want you to do is in your virtual binder, which you can find on the resources website, there is the team charter, which has a big circle on it. And on the inside of that circle, I'd like you to write down all the things that you think make a really great team. Take some time to pause the video and you can do that now. We think we've come up with a list of things that we also think make a great team, and I'm sure you've got a few of these on your list as well. So clear communication is really important, collaboration and working together, open and inclusive discussion, so everyone's got an opportunity to share their ideas or questions. Doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's idea is chosen, but everyone's got a chance to share. Sharing the load and evening out the work, being really responsible, taking your part, being accountable for your bit, understanding that we are all different, and this is a great thing because we all bring some different skills, passions, and experience to the table. Also, having a very clear goal or plan helps us be a great team because we know where we're going and how we're going to get there. Celebrating together is a really great thing to do and really help build a positive working environment, and being reflective, always being willing to improve. Now, because we're working digitally, there are some other things to keep in mind in how we work well as a team. So think about the fact that we can't always read tone in text. So giving our teammates the benefit of the doubt and always reading their messages with a positive mindset is a really great thing to do. Also, making sure you check in regularly with each other, whether that's by a phone or video catch up, having a shared task list or shared documents. Being very clear and setting clear goals, roles and responsibilities throughout your team, so you all know where you're going, what you're responsible for. Keeping in mind that it's really easy to misunderstand each other, so make sure we take notes when you have your team catch-ups or in team meetings or during sessions. Think about how you store your documents, so whether you've got a shared folder or whether one person is particularly responsible for collecting all the work. Make sure you do your bit. You may be not sitting at the same table as your team, but you are responsible for doing your part of the challenge. And finally, look after yourselves individually as well as a team. Make sure you take breaks, so you have a great healthy workspace with lots of light. You take breaks from the screen, do something physical, and really keep yourselves in that positive frame of mind. The other thing we need to think about is what breaks a team down. So on the outside of the circle, I'd like you to write down all the things that you think make a team dysfunctional or break a team down. You can take some time to pause the video now to do that. And these are the things we want to avoid going forward. It's really important that we understand that we each have an important role to play within our team. By the end of today, I want you to have chosen a team leader or CEO, and you can do this any way you would like, whether one person just wants to volunteer or you vote or however you want to do that. But keep in mind that your team leader is not going to be the person who just does all the work. Leaders need to be inclusive, accountable, and responsible, and that is a big enough job on its own. So really keep that in mind going forward. And everyone in your team is going to have an important role across the challenge. So there's a few things you need to think about. So keep in mind what tasks you are going to be working on, what are you responsible for, And what responsibilities might you have throughout the challenge? So it might be being responsible for providing snacks or running daily check-ins or running daily brain breaks, whatever that might be. Think about how you will keep each other on track and motivated. What little goals or celebrations or milestones will you put in front of you to keep yourselves on track and motivated throughout the week? And finally, what will you do and how will you avoid playing the dysfunctional role? How will you avoid all of those outside of the circle things? Another important thing to think about is how you deal with conflict in your team. It's really important to accept that conflict will happen, and that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Sometimes when we have conflict, it means we have to change what we're doing, we have to compromise, and that can lead to something really great that we didn't have in mind before. But a way to avoid unnecessary conflict is to keep communication channels open at all times and make sure that we're always sharing information and clarifying what we're discussing or talking about. But if a conflict does occur, to help you get a positive outcome, here are some things that you can do. So firstly, stay calm and focus on the specific issue rather than pulling in the person or other things that have been happening around. So try and put emotions to the side and talk directly about the issue, not the person. Get a clear understanding of what is going on. You may need to investigate this a bit, or to clarify your understanding. There may be a misunderstanding about what people have said or when something's due. So make sure you clarify and investigate that. You can seek external input as well. So asking a facilitator or a teacher to help moderate a discussion is a really good way to get a positive outcome. Also, focus on the future. Make a plan. At the end of a conflict, think about how you're going to move forward. What strategies or steps are you going to take to move forward in your team? And lastly, highlight the improvements in the team and celebrate each other's progress. It's really hard to get angry or have a conflict with each other if you're constantly looking for the great things in your team. Now, what we're going to get you to do is each team is going to need to create a team MOU or Memorandum of Understanding. This is a contract that organisations use all the time where they have an agreement to conduct themselves or do certain things together, and this is the contract that they use. Now, to create your Memorandum of Understanding, there are 4 things you're going to need to do. There is a template for this on the website. So firstly, you need to outline what your team will do. And these are all those inside of the circle things. What will you do to be a great team? Secondly, your team will not. What are all the dysfunctional things that you are going to avoid? All of those outside of the circle things. 3, think about how your team plans to work digitally. What are you going to do? Who's going to be responsible? Are you going to use file sharing? How are you going to make that work really well for you? And finally, if a conflict arises, our plan is to, what are you going to do as a team if there is a conflict? And you can turn back to this throughout the program to remind yourselves what your plan is. Then lastly, once you've completed that, every person in their team needs to write their name on that document, so you can type that in, especially if it's a shared document, and then you submit that through the resources website by the due time in the schedule. All right, for the second part of this session, we're going to be talking about our innovation process. And the learning intention for this is to provide for you an overview of the key resources you will be required for this challenge and to help frame the next stage of the process. We're working through 3 of our 4 main skill groups, which is understanding, solving problems, and working smart. So our fundamentals for the Illuminate NextGen Challenge is firstly that organisation and time management are critical. Please make sure you attend all sessions on time, whether that's watching a pre-recorded session before or at the time it's scheduled or attending a live session. Please please make sure you are on time for those. Also, set out how you work best. This is an opportunity to have autonomy in that, so really think about how you work best. Our deadlines are really strict. There is no extra time, so please make sure you plan ahead and organize to have things handed in early to ensure that you don't miss those deadlines. This is even more important later on the week where we're sending things out to external judges. If you miss that deadline, your work will miss being sent to those judges and all that hard work will be wasted. And we have the award ceremony on the last day of the challenge where we get to celebrate. So make sure that you rope in your mum, your dad, your family, your friends to come and celebrate with you. There's a whole lot of resources available to you, so please make sure you use them. You have the chat platform Collaborate, so make sure you ask questions, share ideas, brainstorm on there. Our facilitators are there ready to chat with you. Use your team binder to help you with a whole lot of templates that you can use. There's the resources website, the address is there, so all your templates, where you hand stuff in, the videos, the schedule, everything's on there. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, there's even some helpful resources and examples of submissions. And make sure you use all the technology and resources available to you wherever you're working from. We have some behaviour expectations, and they all fall under one main thing, and that is to respect others. Those within your team, those within the program, and those around you, keeping in mind that everyone's got their own things that they're working on and through, so make sure we're being respectful. And again, online, respecting others means that we are professional in the way that we talk to each other on Collaborate. Now we have our innovation process that we're moving through this week. We'll be moving through the first 5 of the 6 stages throughout this challenge. If you want to go ahead and implement your idea, that would be moving through into stage 6. You'll notice that each stage has a gate check. That is a task you need to complete in order to move to the next stage, and we will be highlighting each of those stages as we move through the program. So to complete the program, you'll notice that there is a whole lot of submissions, but they do build up on each other. So make sure that you are working smart and using what you've done earlier on in the challenge to build your later submissions. Delegate your tasks. There's no way that just one person can complete this challenge, so make sure you delegate out well and everyone's got a fair share of work to do. Keep in mind that your tasks are all scored and then added together towards the awards on the final day. So each submission matters. So really make sure that you put your effort into everything this week. And finally, there are rubrics available on the resources website, so you can have a look at what the judges and facilitators are scoring you against. And speaking of judges, keep in mind that all submissions are scored by both facilitators and industry judges, and you can have a look at how we're scoring you with those same rubrics that you'll find on the website, or down the side of the website you'll see the weighting of the different areas. There are also a range of awards available for you to win at the end of the challenge. You can see them all listed there so that you've got plenty of chances to nab one of those awards, which you can also then use as certificates that can go into your CV for later on in life. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that tomorrow morning you'll be having a mentoring session with some industry mentors where you'll get to share the idea that you've been working on with them for some feedback and guidance to move forward. Now, each of those mentoring sessions, you will have 3 minutes to present your idea to the mentors. They will then ask you some questions and offer some feedback. If they ask you a question that you don't know the answer to, firstly, I would write that question down because it's obviously something you do need to think about. And if you don't know the answer to it, just say you don't know. They understand that you've only been working on this for a short time so far, so they know you won't have all the answers just yet. During that session, you want to include some of the following. You definitely want to include your problem, which is your problem frame, and your solution in as much detail as you have. You may also want to talk about your target customers, some competitors, or any pricing that you might have. The more information you can share with your mentors, the more feedback they can give you. And you will also have an opportunity to ask some questions as well. You will need to book in your mentoring time, and your facilitators will post that up onto Collaborate and show you how to do that. So make sure you start preparing for those, and those will be done via a live video call when that session is outlined in your schedule. So where to from now? So firstly, keeping in mind that you do need to complete your problem frame and brainstorming. So if you haven't done that already, please make sure you do that. You will need to do your team MOU, so setting out the foundations for your team. And once that's completed, you need to upload that online. And you can begin preparing for your mentoring session tomorrow. So make sure you check out Collaborate on how you can book in and access that session. Otherwise, good luck, teams.